Caroline, welcome to the Exchange Wire Kitchen. Thank you very much for joining me for a coffee this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are very welcome. First off, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Well, where do I start? So 22 years in now. So I started at the Telegraph, so a long time ago. I then moved, and that was on classified. So I was on travel and property and learnt a lot there, actually. It was an amazing time. Still got friends that I started with back in those days. Great. A lot of them still in media, that of the 10 that started there. I then moved into out of home. So I went to a company called Titan out of home, which was Maiden, and then became Titan. We used to have the little tea badges, which was a really interesting time. And then I moved to the Evening Standard, and that was when the Evening Standard was paid for title. Yeah. And we launched the London Light when the London paper came out, so that was a really interesting time. That was 2008. And then we moved the Evening Standard to a free title, so I was there when that happened. That was really, again, just such a different time. I then moved to Dennis Publishing, and I was there for 10 years, and that's where I really learned a lot. I was promoted a lot. I became a manager there, and we launched things and we bought things, and it was great, like really pushing the digital side when I was at Dennis Publishing as well. And then when Dennis was acquired by Future, I went and did the transition, and then BuzzFeed sort of came and knocked on the door, really, and so I moved over to BuzzFeed for 2 years, and then for the last year and a half I've been at PinkNews.
Amazing. Well, that is a whistle-stop tour through your career. You seem to have been at basically the cutting edge of every big shift in the digital publishing world, which is amazing. Yeah. Before I dig into that a little bit more with you, what is your coffee of choice for today and why?
Oh, so my coffee of choice is a cappuccino. Normally a skinny cappuccino, but I've gone full fat today. But the cappuccino, I think I like the chocolate sprinkles on top, and also it just gives you a bit of a boost, and it's bigger than a normal coffee, so it lasts for longer. So that's probably the reason for a cappuccino.
Excellent reasoning. I'm on my second oat milk flat white of the day, as I tend to be on these mornings. So it's a new coffee shop, so tell me how it is.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
We're all going to be buzzing, aren't we?
I know, absolutely, yeah. Glad we're recording this before. So yeah, you've been, like you said, you've been a lot of different places and a lot of the kind of different pressure points and crux points in publishing over the last few years, really. Where do you see us now in terms of the publishing industry, and what's the kind of state of play for you? It's
really, really hard. I think publishing has always been difficult, but I think even more so today more than ever. And I think everyone talks about diversification and having different revenue lines and not being reliant on one, because an algorithm can change, or Google changes, or Snapchat changes, anything. There's so many different moving parts and so many different things that we're reliant on, that you have to have more than one revenue line. And I think I always knew that, and I've particularly seen it. BuzzFeed was very over-reliant on branded content. PinkNews is very heavily reliant on Snapchat, and it's just making sure that you've got other revenue lines. So if anything falters, or if there's a change in market, or if performance marketing becomes more important to marketers than as we always speak about, branded content maybe might take a bit of a knock. Also, you see other businesses that are getting better at things. So, for example, News UK, maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago, really branded content wasn't their thing. All of a sudden now, they're very, very good at it. So when you've got more competitors in that space as well, it becomes increasingly difficult to win every brief. And so, it's a very, very difficult time. I think that more and more, and what I think is really interesting, is almost publishers moving out of content. And so, like the OK beauty boxes, I mean, they do incredibly well for reach. The Time Out markets have done really, so well for Time Out. You've got Monocle that do really amazing events. You've got all of the beauty, the Hearsts and the Bowers have got their beauty titles that are doing stuff outside of the space, like Stylist Live. That's where I think the interesting point is, and PinkNews in particular being like community focused and like very much a niche publisher, that's really what I see as being really interesting in that community space, building that out, looking at events, looking at things that you can do to bring the community together.
It's about bringing the publications to life. I think this is what we've seen, and you've touched on a few really good points there. Like, I don't even think of the time out markets in relation to the publication. They're just that, you know, the one in Lisbon's amazing. They have these great, you know, pop-up spots. But it's so interesting, that diversification. Like, it's beyond, not even, well, it's well beyond the printed page. It's beyond the screen now. It's bringing that to life, and I think activating the audience, I suppose, is an industry way of putting it. But it's, you know, bringing that brand loyalty that people like PinkNews develop, and, you know, you have this strong community focus as a niche publisher. But it is, you've said, it's a difficult time. It is a hard time for publishers. We are, you know, scrabbling around, everyone's looking for the same deal, the same kind of thing, and it's those things that'll differentiate. And it must be such an interesting spot for you to be in that niche rather than a kind of more generalised publisher like BuzzFeed at the moment. It's just an interesting spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And, you know, there's a lot of talk. I was on an event a few weeks ago, and forums were really being spoken about really heavily. And I think that it is just that, it's that extension. And I think there's a lot of talk about beyond websites now because of AI. And, you know, that's really scary, because, you know, there's so many businesses that are built on websites. Yep. So what do they do? You know, and I think that I don't know if do you listen to the podcast My First Million?
No.
Have you had that? Oh, it's a really good, it's an American, two guys. It's quite like rough around the edges. They just talk about like different things. And there was a guy on there the other day, and he was saying he wanted to buy a business because he didn't want to launch something. He wanted to buy a business that was failing, or not failing, but it was just ready to sort of to be passed on, if you like. So he looked at an SEO business, but then obviously did a lot of and I really looked into the market and really looked into the future. And actually, again, he did something completely different and bought a packaging, you know, like the carrier bags for different malls in America. He bought a warehouse and a factory that did that. So they're completely different from the SEO business that he originally looked at, and he got really close to that one. And I thought it was just fascinating because, again, people coming into the industry, people that are looking at what they want to do next, really you've got to look at the long term. I think everyone is so obsessed with the short term, and because it's hard, why wouldn't you? Like, you know, you've got to pay bills, you've got to pay wages, you've got to pay everything. So everyone is so fixated on the short term because of how hard it is. But actually, what does the long term look like as well? And do you want the business to be here in 10 years' time?
Yeah, and I think that's something it's hard for the publishing industry to do at the moment, is embrace the long term and sort of like buckle in for what's going on at the moment, because, like you say, publishers have built businesses on foundations in the sand, basically. Like, algorithms can change overnight, new technologies can arrive that mean that the platform you spent 2 decades building has no traffic anymore. Like, we've seen such a massive drop off with AI. And it's terrifying for publishers, but there is that kind of, I think, natural instinct to focus entirely on the short term and keeping the lights on rather than focusing on how it'll work long term and a rebuild. And that's completely natural because it's, you know, it's keeping businesses alive.
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to that diversification and then moving out of, you know, Jungle, I think is a really good example, Jungle Creations, because they've got their media brands and they've also then got their social agency, and they've taken the learnings from the media brand to build their social agency. And so when they go to clients and when they're pitching for agency business, they know, they can see what's working and they know how social is playing because they've got the media brands to support that business. And I think that's a really interesting space. And once you've got that social knowledge, you can really build on from that. And social isn't going anywhere for sure.
No, it will change and it will adapt and it will be different, but it's not going anywhere. I mean, we're hearing so much at the moment regarding how brands need to be more like creators need to be more like brands. We're entering in this kind of this knowledge share at the moment where both sides are working out how to best utilise each other, and I think that's a fascinating space as well. Yeah,
it's incredible, you know, and creators are going beyond sort of phones now to TVs, we have YouTube. Netflix buying rights to certain creator content. I mean, it's incredible.
I mean, I've got a toddler at the moment who loves Miss Rachel, and all of a sudden she's not on YouTube anymore. She's the biggest watched thing on Netflix.
Incredible.
Which is actually nice, because it doesn't spit quite so much other stuff after he's finished Miss Rachel. It doesn't move on to another video that's something else. We can just watch Miss Rachel and it keeps him calm. But it's that kind of, creators are, you know, they're not just niche people on a channel anymore. They are kind of being taken up by the mainstream. Things like Miss Rachel, Mr. Beast on Amazon, it's so interesting how it's developed so quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And they're, you know, again, you look at them like they are celebrities now. Like the whole celebrity space has completely changed. Yeah. Even when you're seeing like celebrity traitors, like you've got a YouTube star on there. Yeah. You know, I didn't know who he was. Did you?
No idea.
No, but again, there will be a lot of younger people that would know. So again, those sorts of talent are getting in the mix of these sort of games and these sort of shows. Completely,
yeah. The Traitors one was an example I had as well, because I remember the guy was so surprised. He was like, Stephen Fry knows who I am.
Stephen Fry knows a lot.
Yeah, he's done his homework, Stephen Fry, definitely. But the worlds are colliding, and these people are just, you know, they are the content creators. They are the media brands of the future, which is so interesting. You're at PinkNews, and it's a niche publisher. You have a great community, and I can never use this phrase properly because I don't think English people can. Mm-hmm. It's either riches in niches in the American sense, or you can't say riche in niches because that sounds very pretentious. But there is something in that phrase. You know, we are in a more fragmented world than we've been. Publishers are building strong bonds with their communities, and somewhere like PinkNews, places you've worked, really have that. Mm-hmm. And do you think that is something we're going to see more of, the way the wind's blowing, and is it properly funded?
It's a really good question, and I think was it Brian Morrissey that said it? I think that I've read him write about riches in niches, or
doesn't work.
It doesn't really work. No, definitely not. It's definitely not. It definitely doesn't rhyme. I think yes. I think that there's still going to be a space for mass. But I think that the niches allows you, and particularly passion points. Yeah. Like when you've got a passion point, it is easier to do the brand extensions. And when you've got the brand extensions, you've got the diversification. Yeah. And I think that's where, for example, like Black Ballad, I always use this as an example. I think they do it really, really well. They know their community. They've got an unbelievable connection with everyone that's part of that group, that community. They go surfing together. When brands come in, brands have got instant access to the target demographic that they want, and these people are engaged. They want to be part of this. They want to be engaged with these brands because they want the brands to do better for that community. So I think that's a really interesting point. I think that I think the passion piece is really interesting, and Taste is like a good example of that. When I was at BuzzFeed, there is so many different paths, and again, Jungle have got Twisted, and they've got a restaurant as an example. So they do the restaurant stuff. They license out food brands in Iceland. Like, you know, there's different things that you can touch into. You can bring it in real life. So all of a sudden you've got that, like what we've spoken about, like you can bring the brand to life. So I think that it's definitely easier. I think news is hard. And funny enough, when I had Money Week and The Week at Dennis, actually from a brand extension point of view, Money Week was probably easier because you had the events, you had the lead generation, you had the newsletter was so popular because I guess it was slightly different to what The Week was. Very much like, right, what is everyone else saying? It was collated and it was amazing. But I guess Money Week was, again, a passion point for people that had a lot of money and who loved money, loved investing. And so, you've got that community. We had an event that was put on years ago, our first Money Week event. It was like 300 people that paid £300. And I never forget that because it's easy to remember. Yeah. But that's incredible, isn't it, for a first event? Amazing. I mean, everyone did look the same. I won't, it was... the diversity side wasn't quite there. Well, definitely wasn't. You know, I definitely wasn't with my DEI hat on for sure. But it was very much a success.
Yeah.
And so I think that you've definitely got something when passion is involved.
Yeah, it's another layer on context. It's what people want to, what they want to see, what they want to do. If it's aligned to their interests, then that's where publishers still have some real strength. And like you say, tricky with news, and we've seen a lot of news stories about how brands are excessively blocking certain words for their targeting. They're not putting their spend next to news. But in terms of, the diversification, the niches, crikey, niches, there is a lot to be, I think there's a lot to be said, and a lot of excitement in the industry around that. I'm going to go and have some exchange wire coffee cups branded, and we'll see if we can diversify into coffee sales on the back of this series.
Well, merchandising is definitely one of them if you've got the brand to do it, for sure.
That's it. We'll go for coffee beans and coffee cups and grow exchange wire. Caroline, that's been wicked. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's been great.
Lovely to chat always, and you're always welcome back. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, John. Love being here. Thank you very much.
No worries.